commies and pro-illegal organizations protesting together in Detroit, from Caitlin Bennett's Liberty Hangout video. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look behind the scenes at the organizations from the signs that they were all holding up.
Oh, well, people need to be awake and they need to be aware. They need to stand up again.
Alright, so like I said, we are going to talk about the Liberty Hangout protest that was recently uploaded. We're actually going to jump over there now. Alright, so I have several tabs paused that I'm going to run through and show you what's going on at the protest. I paused on this one. You see here, this is refusefascism.org. They were at the protest, and they are a communist organization. They're basically a front group for Revolutionary Communist Party. I used to cover them all the time on my early videos. I haven't really talked about them much lately, but if you go back to my early videos, I went through some of the interesting stuff in their constitution. Like, there's a video, Commies and Kids, where they talk about, like, what they want to do with the schools. They want to outlaw private, and basically force everybody to send their kids to public school, and so on and so forth, so that they can indoctrinate. Let's move on to the next tab. I paused here because we see this pacifista crowd safety. That's going to become important. This organization was the main organization running this, and that's not the name of the organization, but that is their logo, which is also on my thumbnail. Next tab. I paused here. You see the organization logo again right here. I also paused because you have the American flag and the Mexican flag. You know, we're always seeing that. We're always seeing, and I'll link you to Caitlin's video herself, and you can see the timestamps when I jump from tab to tab. So anyway, I wanted to hone in on the fact that they are holding up this Mexican flag at a protest in America. There were also a lot of signs in Spanish. So anyway, you see what we got here. More protests. Oh, and here, you see this woman's got this knob on her phone. There's another woman that has that later. It's kind of ironic that these people are protesting with the communist group that's trying to overthrow our government for communism, and yet they're clearly using, oh, and look, she has her nails did. So they're getting all of these, you know, and she has a really nice sunglasses that look expensive. Somebody else has a microphone, and I don't think that's probably one of the communist groups. So, you know, it's interesting. These people are supposed to be for communism, socialism, and yet she has her nails done. She has this knob thing on her phone, which indicates people put those on their phone when they use their phone a lot to make their phone easier to hold. If you're not using your phone that much, you're not going to put something like that on your phone. Moratorium Now Coalition. I'm going to bring them up later. That's them too. Stop ICE child abuse. End ICE. You see justice. More of this going on. How lovely how people come in here. Anti-Trump as fuck. How lovely how these people come in here and then immediately protest to change our style of government that we currently have in office. And that's illegal in most countries. I don't know if it is in our country. That's something to look at, because maybe there's something on our books where illegals can't come here and protest to change the government. I know in Mexico that is absolutely 100% illegal. I did a video on Mexico's immigration law, and it was like an old article I had found, Mexico's immigration laws, let's try them here. And I found that article and I did a video on it, and it's from over a year ago. I think it's even from my old, before I changed my logo to the stone that I've had for over a year. Going on, I think I had this logo and style for like a year and a half now. Lovely, lovely individual here. And again, this knob thing on her phone indicating that she spends a lot of time on her phone, but meanwhile she's also protesting with communists. You know, and it's funny how these people want to be let in and everything, but like I said, they also want to change our government to a government that is like the places where they came from. I mean, and then this guy, the Black Lives Matter. If you don't know this, Black Lives Matter is actually tied to communism. I know a lot of people don't know that, and I've covered that on this channel, but maybe if you haven't looked at my older videos, you don't know that. So, communism and looking behind the scenes at the protests and looking at the signs like I'm doing in this video, this is kind of a lot of what I used to cover. So I'm getting back to my roots a little bit with this video here. Okay, and I paused it here because this guy actually was willing to talk to her, and the goons from their organization. I love how not really ticked off to see somebody in a kippah out here protesting on behalf of communism. But you also see in the video there's a girl in a kippah, which means that the girl is definitely not Orthodox, because in Orthodoxy women don't wear kippahs. So that means that at least she is either Reform or Conservative Jew, and the guy may be as well. I have no way of knowing. But anyway, this sign here in the background, that's another sign from Refuse Fascism, which is a communist front group, which I've covered in other videos. And one last, you see this lovely sign here. And then I also want to hone in, if you don't know this already, okay, these green hats, when you watch protests, you'll see these bright green hats. They're like, I think it's called National Lawyers Guild or something. And I think in this video, this woman was also filming a lot. This is kind of key if you don't already know this. So these people, what they do is they go out and they film the protests and they observe. And because they are lawyers, then they turn around and they like help the groups. So like, things happen, they'll get people's footage, they coordinate and get people's footage to like help sue people. They act like they're there to like be like these good people or whatever, but they're only for the left. They were at Occupy Wall Street, and I know that because the first time I learned about these bright green hats, and I've seen them throughout the years, the first time I learned about them was in a long live stream, a Boston rally. It was 2017, maybe May. Tim Pool did it, and there were also like communist flags there and everything. But anyway, in the process of the video, I kept seeing these, and then eventually Tim actually mentioned it, and he had encountered these people at Occupy Wall Street. If you don't know who Tim Pool is, so he's a moderate left, like he's a leftist, but like a normal leftist, and he went out to Occupy Wall Street just to film it. I think he just wasn't working at the time, so he was like, hey, this is interesting, and you know, I'm free, I might as well do this. So he went out and he filmed Occupy Wall Street, and that's actually how he became a citizen journalist. After he filmed that and everything, they turned around and they started hiring him. He did after that work at some places that were like, you know, establishment journalists like Vice News and stuff. I guess Vice wasn't really establishment at the time, but they're somewhat backed by ABC. But anyway, so he talked about he's gone out to, that used to be his thing, going out to protest, but now he sits behind the desk and goes over news. But yeah, so another thing I want to say is I don't really agree with conservatives. I call it running down to Antifa to stick a mic in the face of these people. I think you could just as easily, like, you see, I'm going through her video, and I'm going through the various like signs and talking about this woman having a hat and explaining this National Lawyers Guild. This is something that they could do. They could go and stand outside the protest, film these people protesting, film all of their signs, go to their websites and like tell you what's going on behind the scenes and give you more information about these groups. You know, I mean, maybe everybody just wants to watch the cringe, but I think it's more important to inform the public. Moving on to the next tab. So this is the group. They go by this, you see the same logo here. I don't know if you can see the address bar because I know I cut the top off because somebody complained people complain if I have extra tabs open not related to the video I'm making, so I actually like cropped them out. So I don't know if I also cropped out the address bar, but anyway, the address bar says lahuelga.com, and that's their website, which actually I looked it up. It means the strike in Spanish. So, they may have started with a slightly different, they probably started slightly different and then changed because they don't seem to have the internet address of like cosecha.com or movementcosecha.com. It's actually Movimiento, so it's movementcosecha.com. And, you know, they're saying like immigrants deserve protection and this and that, but like I just showed you, they were the main group running this protest, but they're also inviting the communist groups to come and protest with them. So that means they're endorsing a communist style of government. You know, they shouldn't be at a protest with. They also have a campaign going to get driver's licenses for illegal aliens. So, everyday immigrant parents, they have to do it by foot and public transportation or ask for a ride because they don't want to run any risks. They don't want to, you know, no, they shouldn't. In fact, no, they shouldn't be able to get a license. They shouldn't be able to get a license. They shouldn't be able to register vehicles. I mean, if you are illegal, serious countries, I can't. People say in the comments, oh, do this in any other country. But the truth is, we have this problem throughout several Western countries. But it's funny, try being illegal in a third world country. Like Mexico, you know, the countries that these people come from. And that's another thing. The left will call you racist if you imply that all the illegals are Hispanic. And yet, this organization is supposedly for illegals. And I thought there was 2 tabs with 2 different hijabis. There was at least one. There's this one. There was a black girl there too. Oh, here we go. That's why I paused on this one. So there was 2 hijabis at the protest. And then also the sign name. So she's actually with a different group, Moratorium Now Coalition. Whereas the other woman, I think, was with... This woman seems to be with the Cosecha group, maybe. And her sign says Deport ICE, which she holds up later. But this was just a good shot of her. Alright, back over to the tab I left off on. And, you know, they have, like, all these people, all the kids, you know. Drive without fear. Alright, so here is Refuse Fascism. They have, you know, their website. This is an article that they got put in to The Guardian. Nice lefty. I'm a Stanford professor accused of being a terrorist. McCarthyism is back. Well, McCarthyism is basically calling people out for being communist. And your article is on Refuse Fascism, the site of a communist group. So... yeah, you are a commie. And also, like, when I go through and I go down the rabbit hole and I look at all these tabs, which I don't think other people do that. Other people probably don't pause the videos and look at so many different tabs and go and dig for more information like I sometimes do. And that's why I started making a channel, because I was like, I find all of this information like, this could be interesting. People might want to see this. So I started, where now what I do is I leave all the tabs open and I go through them with you guys. So anyway, yeah. Let's see. This is Moratorium Now. I found their page. They're just in Michigan. You see their address bar is, I don't know if you can see it, moratorium-mi for Michigan.org. And I was looking through some of their stuff. And then you have organizer endorsers. So these groups, there's so many different little groups that work together. And I just want to emphasize that to people, because people watch these videos of the protests and they sit there and they like laugh and and it's getting very serious. Like, they're going out and they're people, they go out and they just start talking to people and they meet people and they basically give them skewed information. People in this world are hungry for friends, and they pretend to be friends with people. They develop friendships, but the friendships have an ulterior motive of recruiting people into these groups. It's very much like a lot of like cults and some kind of religions do, where they're constantly going out, with ulterior motives. And I don't know why we don't organize. I've tried to organize people in New York City, and it's like, so I'll like go on Twitter, and people who have like New York City in their bio, I'll like contact these people and I'll be like, hey, I live in New York City too, we should work together. And I never get replies. I'll get like, they'll like and retweet it, and they'll never like reply to it or DM me. We have to develop a mindset in our community to start to work together, to start to form groups. A lot of it can be done online, but it involves people actually being interested in forming groups so that we can go out as a group. Because like one person, first off, if you're arranging to go out and talk to people with groups, one of the advantages to that is it's safer. But another thing is, if you arrange to go out with groups, people are more likely to go out and do it. Like, if you go out by yourself, you're gonna start to, like, a lot of people feel like I would potentially lose my nerve. I used to do some of it, but and another thing is you want, like, flyers to hand out. So, like, my printer broke, so, like, potentially I could find someone with a printer. Some people could make copies. Go out as like anonymous people, go into like more neutral neighborhoods and just talk to people and get people to know what's going on. I can't even tell you how many times like I start talking to strangers, and if politics come up, these people know nothing. Like, we watch the Democrat debates and people go, there's no way Trump can't win 2020. Oh my gosh, look at what they're doing. They want this one. The average person, like, I met a woman in Kmart the other day, in the dressing room, no less. Like, nothing crazy. It sounds weird, but she was like in a neighboring stall, and we started chit-chatting, with our doors closed and everything. We were the only two people in the dressing room. Turned out we lived near each other, and like she said something about, them bringing in all the illegals, but like, she had no clue that, like, the ties to the connection that the illegals have to communism. She didn't know about that. She didn't know that I ended up telling her at one point, I'm like, did you know that there's 4 communists in our Congress right now? She didn't know. Like, the average person doesn't look at the news, doesn't know this stuff. I think that's, like, your average run-of-the-mill person, because I know before, like, early 2017, and I voted for Trump and everything, but, like, even then, I still didn't really know much until I discovered communism was in our country, and then I became like a total political and news junkie. But prior to that, I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea about that. So, I know this video is getting long. Anyway, let me move on to the other tabs. But what I'm saying is I think most people are like I was back in like 2015 even. I started to like wake up. I actually started to wake up a little bit before Trump came on the scene. I think it was actually summer of 2014 when Tomi Lahren went viral. I started watching her, and then I started watching Ann Coulter, and then I would watch some stuff out of Suggested from YouTube, which I couldn't have told you the names of the people, but now I know is like Crowder and Rebel Media, really big websites, the bigger YouTube channels in conservatism, which I don't really watch as much now. Oh, here we go. Huelga means strike. This is me looking them up. I actually didn't need to save that. Here is their YouTube channel. I found this juicy thing in their playlists. So I'm just gonna play like a little bit of the beginning, and you see it's called Theater of the Oppressed, and I only found it because it was on a playlist and it's unlisted. So they're filming like this activity, and you see the guy has, when he comes over to the camera, you actually see that he is wearing a Cosecha shirt. So while they're villainizing elites, they're in this space. Somebody paid to rent that space out or to buy them a building wherever that is. The space that they're in, somebody pays for them to have meeting space. I know, like, for the Republican groups, generally they pay for a 2-hour meeting once a month. These groups are paying $100 a month to rent out some sort of space, and they meet in, like, churches, synagogues, like veteran posts, like they'll rent out like veteran locations, like veterans groups like VFW, they'll rent out like their location. Little groups like that aren't necessarily political but are kind of patriotic, they'll rent out locations like that, and the Republican groups are paying $100 a month to rent out these locations. And I actually spoke to the leader of one of the Republican groups, and she claimed she looked for a cheaper place to meet up and couldn't find cheaper. I know other groups are meeting like in restaurants, so they might not be paying anything, but then everybody who comes to the meeting basically has to buy food or drinks. Like one group meets at a bar, another group meets at a restaurant that has a room that's basically always empty. But the thing is, they'll meet in places, and potentially other people can like hear your business and stuff, and it limits, like, I don't know if you can really have a speaker a lot of times if you're in a restaurant in an area that's normally quiet in a restaurant. Like one group meets in a restaurant in the upstairs section, and there's been other people who've like been upstairs while we're having our meetings, which is a kind of a little awkward in New York City. So, because if you think about how left-wing people are in New York City, but they're really, Manhattan is actually the worst. So, and that is meaning in Manhattan. There are parts of the outer boroughs that are actually pretty tame, and I keep telling people, like, we need to start with Brooklyn and Queens and Staten Island and try to, like, wake people up. Because, like I said, you talk to a random person on the street, and they might be against illegal immigration, but, like, they might not vote. Or even if they vote, they don't know things like we have 4 communist congresswomen. 4 communist congresswomen. People don't know this stuff. All right.
So we have. She's the elite. So we have our pyramid here, like the one that.
Okay, so what's going on here, I actually didn't watch it, but I like jumped through it. So this girl is the elites, and he's going to put her in the top of the pyramid, and then he's going to bring in other people. We're going to jump through, and you see up here, this is cut off a little, but it says, I think our plan to win or something like that. Yeah, our plan to win. All right, so she's in the top of the pyramid. She's the elites, and you can see that he's actually wearing a Cosecha t-shirt. So that means they're buying people t-shirts. Most likely this guy is on salary. So, they're putting people on salary, which we know. I think a lot of people that go out and protest with these groups aren't getting paid, but definitely the organizers are getting paid. I think it does us a disservice when we say, like, oh, these are Soros paid protesters. Well, no, the organizers are paid, and maybe they pay a few agitators. Like, I went to an anti-Ilhan Omar, like, to try to get her off, to protest against her being on the Foreign Affairs Committee that was organized by Dov Hikind. And I went to that protest, and towards the end, we had a guy who claimed he lived in the neighborhood and was walking his dog, and then he got in an argument with a guy across the street, and the people across the street, which was the counter-protesters, like the Antifas. And I think both of them were Soros-paid protesters, especially the guy across the street. They eventually arrested the guy across the street. Oh, and here, for the lovely tolerance of these people, so I actually screamed at the guy who was getting arrested. I said, don't worry, Soros will bail you out. That's actually, I put this protest on my YouTube channel. I said, don't worry, Soros will bail you out. And the guy turned around and called me the K word that rhymes with bike. So, I mean, yeah, they are so tolerant and lovely. Unfortunately, that happened after the protest had mostly ended, and I had already shut off my camera, so I didn't get it. So I can't really prove it, but that's what happened. So, okay, so he's got her at the top of the pyramid. She's representing the elites. Jump. And a lot of it is like, white supremacy bad, systems bad, people. Alright, so this is systems and institutions. They're in the second rung of the pyramid. 2 people to represent systems. I think they only have 3 rungs to the pyramid. Oh yeah, see? Our plan to win. And okay, and he's about to bring in... Come on. I'll link this in the description, by the way. Alright, so he brings in 4 people on the bottom. Where's their signs? La gente. So then the exercise is to have these people in the front like lean on them, and then he's saying that basically the la gente, the people, are supposed to just remove themselves so that the elites and the institutions fall down. But I mean, and this sounds very communist as I'm repeating it, but meanwhile, these very elites that they're demonizing at this little meeting are the ones who are basically like George Soros. They're paying for these people to like have a meeting space, have organizers who are full-time on the clock, have matching t-shirts, have matching signs at all their protests. That's all being paid for by the elites. The very same elites that they are demonizing at this meeting. And I actually sent an email out to, see, elites, and it's all in Spanish except for elites. Sistemas, instituciones, la gente. This is probably like another organizer. So this is maybe they're meeting at the old La Raza headquarters. Okay, this is where they have these 2 lean back and stuff, and they kind of demonstrate a little bit of what I just said. Yeah. or maybe more here. And then this is where you see he tells them, okay, La Gente is going to fall away, and then the elites and the institutions have no one to lean on. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, by all means, take yourselves out of the equations. Go back to your old countries, where you came from, and leave the American, because there's always going to be the masses. They think the idea behind communism is they think they're going to take over, and then the pyramid's going to topple down again. They claim oh, we're being oppressed, this and that. They just want to be in charge. That's all it is. And I'm not a rich person by any means. I'm not an elite. I would actually fall under La Gente in their characterization, but sometimes you just don't win the genetic lottery. Sometimes you just aren't born lucky, and get over it. And if you're hung up on trying to be an elite, then do that. You got to decide what's important. There was a time when everybody wasn't obsessed with status, before we all had commercialism and the internet, and even before that, TV and radio and all of that looming over our head, constantly telling us buy this, buy that. You gotta be rich, and you gotta buy this, and you gotta buy that, and you gotta have status, and everybody tried to outdo their neighbors. There was a time, a long time ago, 100 years ago and such, during the Industrial Revolution, everybody was poor. And you know what happened? People got married, they had kids, they lived their life, and you didn't live to have a job to impress people. You lived to go to work and come home and see your family. And people don't do that anymore. People don't get married. Men don't get married because they want to sleep around. Women don't get married because they want to sleep around, or because they don't, they want a career or whatever. People don't even value the idea of having kids. Some people might criticize me. I mean, I wanted to get married and have kids, but, every guy I went on a date with practically was just trying to get me into bed, and there came a point where I just stopped dating. So, it is what it is. You make your peace with the life that you've been dealt. Alright, protesters demand Cuomo Alley evict ICE from the Manhattan office building. So these rich leftist elites have an office building with a bunch of SJW tenants. This is tied to them. I found this through this group. So you see here, here's this Cosecha. I found this going through their stuff. Also interesting, Tech Workers Coalition, really? So Tech Workers Coalition is also part of all of this lefty go out and protest, go out and scream about this, that, and the other thing. So they have all these SJW clients, tenants or whatever, in this building. Starrett Lehigh is apparently the landlord. And let's see, the old saying, money talks, forcing them into they believe that they have violated the terms. They encourage the tenants to put their rent into escrow. In other words, not pay the rent. Basically force the landlord to take all of them to court for eviction and for back rent, just because they're mad that ICE is in the same building. And another thing, this is not regular ICE. This is hilarious. They're getting their undies in a bunch because where is it? Maybe it's further up. It's not regular ICE. It's some community outreach. I forget what they call it. Let me see. Where is it? Let me see. Office of Community Engagement. So basically, this is like an ICE office that's dedicated to ICE is supposedly an organization that's here to deport people, but Office of Community Engagement sounds like it's an ICE office that's like, I mean, we keep hearing how they go to ICE at the border and ICE actually like ships them into the interior instead of kicking them out of the country. And it's like, this is insane. Like, it's horrifying that this is what our taxpayer dollars are paying for, but this is probably like Office of Community Engagement. I'm pretty sure that means interacting with the illegals and giving them a big pat on the shoulder and reassuring them that it's okay that they're breaking the law when it really shouldn't be. Yeah. Alright, what's this tab? Oh, so they're having a protest on September 14th as well. They list their protests here. And this is another protest. Oh, it's just 3 of these groups, and then you see on this one all those 3 groups. Oh, one more. So they work with these 3 groups. Apparently, tech workers don't want to be involved in this protest here coming up, but they are on the other ones. And they say like non-violent, but I mean, like, basically what these groups do is they organize to go out and be a pain in the rear end to try to, which is supposed to get politicians and the like on their side. This is one of the reasons why the Democrat Party is going so far to the left. These sorts of organizations are pressuring them. Like, if they get their people to lean on the politicians. And this is also why even the Republican Party is being pulled to the left. Republican politicians are being asked, put on the spot, like, why don't you support this? Why don't you support this? We're not doing the same thing. We're not sending people to lobby or to contact. We don't, like, mass tweet at our Republican politicians to remind them, like, who their actual base is. We don't do this. This is an unfortunate part about the conservatives or the right, that we really, we don't get involved. We don't, we sit here and we watch the YouTube videos and we own, where these YouTubers own lives. And there's this channel that I had came across, and he emails me. The name of it is Solving Politics, and he keeps repeating, I guess it came from someone, but the left, everyone wants to be an activist, and the right, everyone wants to be the next Rush Limbaugh. And if you think about it, like, all these YouTubers trying to get big and trying to become big channels, and they go out, I don't like that Caitlin Bennett goes to these protests. I call it running down to Antifa. They go running down to Antifa and they stick a microphone in their face and they ask them these stupid questions. I don't agree with this. And I don't think the right should be giving people like this money. People should go down and film all their signs and then go through the signs and talk about who these organizations are. If you start looking at their websites and see all the organizing they're doing and all the stuff that they're doing, they're constantly, like, complaining. And they, we see, like, the Twitterati or whatever, the constant woke leftists on Twitter, like, they're getting organized. They're all tied to these different groups. And that's the thing, is we don't do the same thing. What we need to do is we need to have people who are in these groups, and then we need to have in groups of our own, and then have them, like, work together. Everybody, like, tied to a group, or the YouTubers that do have a following, like, maybe they could start to organize their people. Do you want to organize around gun rights? Do you want to, you can organize, get in a group like that. The only ones who really, like, organize and go out and, like, educate, I see the pro-life groups do that. Like Students for Life recently did a tour where they went to college campuses and they had visuals that they set up, and then, you know, as people came by, they explained to them the statistics and told them like all these truths about Planned Parenthood. We should be doing stuff like that, and we should have, like, if we had organizations that are not necessarily, because that's the thing, is you get like student groups organized, but why don't we have these groups coordinate with non-students? Like, regular people could join, you know, clubs. You could have clubs for all ages, you know, instead of, because we have everybody sectioned by ages. We should have people sectioned by like where you live or your cause. So we should have like pro-life groups, or, you know, we should have groups like this and actually organize, because the groups that we have, we like go and watch a speaker, or people go and drink together. We don't have anybody, you know, where we organize to go out and educate people. I don't think we should go and protest like they do. You know, people always say, oh, we don't have time to protest because we all have jobs. Okay, we do, and we don't. But we could get groups together, and in the evenings or on the weekends, you know, just spend a couple hours. People could spend like 2 hours once a month and go out and educate people. That's what we need to do. We need to educate people, and we're not doing that. We also need to organize groups to be our own little, like, Twitteratis. We need, you know, more of that. And people, what they do is, I see too many people on the right where they're constantly, like, they follow big, popular people on the left, and then they, like, put the snotty remarks in their comments. I don't really like that. I think you need to be, like, organized and, you know, to lean on conservative politicians to actually represent their base. You know, that's what we should be doing, because they're getting all kinds of pressure from the left to support the left, to go further to the left, and meanwhile the conservatives aren't really getting a lot of pressure from the conservatives to, you know, stand firm in our principles. When Dan Crenshaw came out and be as a gun grabber, like, he did get a little of that. But that's another thing that we need to do, and it should be more planned and organized instead of just letting it be organic. All right, I'm sure this video is insanely long. It is 42 minutes. I'm so sorry. Anyway, thanks for stopping by the channel. I've finished my tabs. I'll put some links in the description. I'll see you all next time.
Oh, well, people need to be awake, and people need to be awake, and they need to be aware. They need to stand up against the stuff. Oh, well, people need to be awake. People need to be awake, and they need to be aware. They need to stand up against the stuff. Oh, well.
And it's so politically engaged.
And it's so politically engaged.